Alright, let's dive into the story that's been stirring up a lot of buzz behind the scenes, and it literally dropped just about an hour before we hit record. We're talking about a situation that might change the entire trajectory of a player's career and quite honestly caught everyone off guard. It involves a contract, a possible renewal, and a decision that could impact not only the squad depth, but also how the team shapes up for the next few seasons. So let's get into it. Word is the club is preparing to offer a new improved 3-year deal to a player whose current contract is about to run out. And we're not just talking about any offer. We're talking about a significant bump in salary, a serious financial incentive to keep him tied to the club until the summer of 2028. The timing of this move is very telling. It suggests a change in stance from the club, who just a short while ago looked ready to part ways with the player, likely aiming to cash in or simply open space in the squad. But something shifted. The player's recent performances seem to have had an effect. He's been showing consistency, delivering solid shifts on the pitch and making a case for himself even if he's not first choice in his position. That's where things get tricky. The player in question has mostly been playing second fiddle to a teammate who's just come back into contention. So essentially what the club is saying is, we want you to stay, we rate you, but you're going to be backup. That's not an easy sell. No footballer dreams of being the understudy, especially not one with ambitions of being a starter week in, week out. Now, let's not forget that other clubs have shown interest. There's been some noise from teams abroad, even some from within the domestic league, but nothing concrete that matches what his current club is putting on the table financially. The wage hike being proposed isn't small. From what we've been hearing, it's a big enough step up to make anyone stop and think twice, especially if you're at a stage in your career where stability and security are starting to take priority. And let's be honest, when a player's got a young family, those things do matter more than ever. But here's the other side of the coin. Despite all the goodwill, despite the better salary and the manager's clear support, he still wouldn't be a guaranteed starter. The man ahead of him is well established, has experience in big matches, and the coaching staff clearly trusts him to deliver in high pressure situations. So for our guy, this becomes a question of ambition. Does he stay, earn a strong wage, play a role off the bench, and feature occasionally in rotation? Or does he push for a move where he can be on the pitch more regularly, even if that means taking a hit financially or moving to a less prestigious league? And there's more to it. We're not just talking about playing time. There's also the lure of European competition, potentially Champions League football. And that's something that not every club can offer. His current side is in a position to be playing at that level next season. That's a huge factor. For a player in his prime, the chance to be involved, even as a backup, in those kinds of matches against elite opposition is hard to turn down. You're still training at the highest level, learning, staying sharp. And who knows, injuries, suspensions, tactical changes, all of that can open doors for more minutes when you least expect it. Still, it's understandable why the player might hesitate. There's a mental side to this too. Knowing you're not the first name on a team sheet can be tough. It plays on your pride, your sense of value, especially when a few months ago the narrative around you was very different. Back then, the club seemed ready to move on. There were even reports suggesting they'd accepted that he'd leave on a free if a decent offer didn't come through. But now all of a sudden he's important again. It's a bit of a turnaround, and you have to wonder what changed internally. Was it performances, injuries, a lack of suitable replacements, maybe even a change of heart from the coaching staff, whatever? It was the timing is key. The club is clearly pushing to sort this out now before the season ends to avoid the uncertainty dragging into the summer. And they're putting their money where their mouth is, offering a package that reflects how much they value him, even if it's not quite at the level of a nailed-on starter. But it's a complicated message to receive. It's basically saying, we want you just not as our main guy. That's a tough pill to swallow. And yet from a strategic standpoint, it makes total sense. The squad needs depth. The manager knows he can rely on this player in specific situations, and continuity matters, especially in defense. Now, let's touch on some of the alternatives that have been mentioned. There's been talk of clubs from Croatia, even whispers of a potential switch to the MLS or lower tier English sides. Realistically, though, none of them are offering the same combination of salary, competitive level, and exposure that his current club can provide. Sure, a move abroad might mean more starts, but it also comes with challenges. adapting to a new culture, relocating your family, maybe stepping away from the European spotlight. And importantly, some of those clubs aren't even guaranteed to be in top competitions next year. One of the interested teams might qualify for the Champions League now, but their long-term future is far from secure. That adds a layer of risk. From what we understand, even internally, opinions are divided. Some people close to the player feel he should go seek a fresh start, assert himself somewhere else. Others believe he should stick around, take the improved deal, and see it as a chance to keep growing within a strong setup. After all, he's already familiar with the environment, the coaching, the expectations. He knows what's required. And sometimes that continuity, that familiarity can be more valuable than people realize. Let's also talk numbers. While exact figures haven't been confirmed, there's chatter that the deal on the table could see him earning somewhere between £15,000 and £20,000 per week. That's a significant increase from what he's currently on, and it puts him in a decent bracket for a rotational player in that position. By comparison, some of the top earners at the club are rumored to be on double or even triple that, but for someone who isn't guaranteed to start this, is a very respectable offer. It shows intent, it shows the club doesn't want to lose him for nothing, but will it be enough to convince him we've seen this kind of story play out before? A player caught it in between. Not quite a star, but not dispensable either. When he plays well, fans sing his praises. But if he has a rough patch, the criticism comes fast and loud. There's not much middle ground. That kind of inconsistency can shape how a career is remembered. And for someone like him, who's had highs and lows, that narrative matters. It impacts not just his own mindset, but also how future managers, clubs, even supporters perceive him. I mean, take that one match earlier this season. He started shaky, gave away an early goal, and there were boos from the crowd. But then minutes later, he equalized with a lucky deflection, and suddenly the mood shifted. That's football. One moment you're the villain, the next you're the hero. And maybe that's part of what's making this decision so difficult. He knows how quickly things can change. He's lived it. He's been written off before, only to bounce back and prove people wrong. So where does that leave us now? We're looking at a scenario where the club has shown their hand. They want him to stay. They've offered him security, more money, a defined role. It's not glamorous, but it's honest. And they've done it at a time when the player has just welcomed a child, which adds another dimension to the whole situation. Family comes into play. Stability matters more. Maybe this isn't about chasing the spotlight anymore. Maybe it's about building something long-term, even if it means not being the main man every week. But of course, we don't have the full picture. Only the people directly involved know exactly what's been said behind closed doors. The rest of us are just piecing it together based on performances, rumors, and timing. What's clear, though, is that this is a major turning point. Whatever decision he makes is going to have ripple effects. For his career, for the club's planning, for the way the squad is shaped next season. And if he does sign, it'll be a sign that he's ready to embrace this role, accept the challenge, and continue contributing, even if it's from the bench more often than not. But if he walks away seeking minutes elsewhere, you'd have to respect that too. Because at the end of the day, every player wants to play. They want to feel valued. They want to be in the thick of it, not just watching from the sidelines. Now the ball's in his court, and all eyes are on what comes next. Now, let's be honest, in Scottish football, decisions like these don't just fly under the radar. When a club of this size makes a push to retain a player, it sends a message, not just to the fans, but to the entire league. It says they're thinking long-term, that they're not just here for quick fixes. And for this player that's got to feel good. After all, there was a time not so long ago when it looked like his exit was all but confirmed. There were whispers in the stands, doubts among the support, and even quiet conversations in the press about whether he'd be shipped out. Yet here we are. He's gone from near departure to a central figure in the club's renewal strategy. That kind of turnaround doesn't happen by accident. Something clearly clicked. Maybe it was a stretch of consistent form. Maybe it was how he responded to the pressure, or maybe it's just that the options out there weren't as appealing as once believed. Regardless, what we know is this: the club now sees value in keeping him, and that says something about the evolution of his game. But let's not pretend this is a fairy tale. The reality is still sharp. He's likely going to remain second choice, at least for the foreseeable future. And that's not just because of who's ahead of him, but also because of how the manager wants to structure the squad. In Scotland, especially with clubs involved in Europe, rotation is key. The season is long, the pitches are heavy in the winter, and injuries are never far away. so while he might not start every week, there will be chances. Cup games, midweek fixtures, injury cover, tactical shifts. It's not glamorous, but it's football, and it's a reality for a lot of players. In top sides, still for a professional in his mid-20s with a young family and ambitions to play regularly, the decision isn't easy. One option gives him financial stability. Champions League nights, a strong support system, and a familiar environment. The other offers potential starts a starring role and maybe more individual recognition, but also comes with risks. Less money, less exposure, and more uncertainty. And it's not just about the player, is it? Let's not forget the dynamic inside the dressing room. The other lads will be watching this closely, because when one of your teammates gets offered a new deal, especially one that's financially generous, it shifts the mood, it changes the atmosphere. Players compare, they talk, it sends signals about who the club values and how they're building toward the future. If he signs, it's a vote of confidence. If he walks, it raises questions. Are the backups being underused? Is the club really offering a path forward for players outside the starting 11? That's why this story, even though it might seem minor, to some, is actually a huge indicator of where the club's mindset is. It's a test of their depth, their strategy, and their ability to retain talent in a league where competition is fierce and resources are limited. You look at the Scottish Premiership and you see clubs constantly battling, not just on the pitch, but in the boardroom, trying to outsmart each other with better deals, smarter recruitment, and player development. So when a deal like this comes up, it's never just about one name on a contract. It's about the bigger picture. And let's not overlook the emotional side either. This player, he's been through a lot with the club. There have been ups and downs, memorable wins, disappointing losses. He's had spells where the fans were on his back and moments where he was the hero. That connection, even when it's complicated, means something, especially in Scotland where football is so deeply tied to identity, community, and pride. Staying at a club where you fought to earn respect can be more rewarding than starting fresh somewhere else. But there's still the looming presence of what lies ahead. Will the current first choice stay injury-free? Will tactical changes allow this player more freedom to express himself? Will he be used as a utility option, slotting in during crises or trusted in big fixtures when others are unavailable? These are questions he has to weigh carefully, and they're not easy ones to answer. And of course, the money does matter. We can't ignore that. A raise that takes him closer to £20,000 a week, that's life-changing, especially over a 3-year span. In Scottish football, that's a solid wage even for a rotation player. Not every club can offer that kind of financial package, especially not those lower down the table or abroad. So while fans might say go where you'll play more, the truth is that kind of stability is hard to turn down. It's about setting your family up, thinking ahead, and making the most of what might be your last big contract before you hit your 30s. At the same time, nobody wants to feel like a placeholder, and right now with another talented left back arriving, that's the message that could be received. You're good, but not quite good enough to be our first pick. That's tough to hear, but it's also the truth in elite football. Only 11 start and the rest have to find their place. So here we are waiting, watching, wondering what he'll decide. There's no wrong answer, really. Stay and fight for your spot in a competitive European level side. Or take the leap back yourself as a starter somewhere else and bet on your own potential. Either way, it's a decision that'll define the next few years of his career and possibly how he's remembered by the fans. And whatever happens, you get the feeling that this story isn't quite over yet. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. The rumor mill has been in overdrive, and it's not just any typical transfer chatter. Fans, pundits, and insiders alike are all speculating on one burning question. Will Bojan Miovski, the man who's been lighting up La Liga with Girona, make a shock move to Celtic this summer? While Miovski's recent departure from Aberdeen and subsequent move to Spain has set tongues wagging, there are whispers growing louder from the east end of Glasgow. Could Celtic's pursuit of the 24-year-old striker be the next big chapter? In his rapidly ascending career, Miovski, who burst onto the Scottish football scene with Aberdeen, quickly established himself as a lethal forward. His pace, precision, and clinical nature in front of goal caught the attention of many. particularly after his impressive performances in the 2022-23 Scottish Premiership. But it's his most recent stint in La Liga with Girona that has added even more fuel to the fire. Despite his relatively short time in Spain, Miovski has made a significant impact, securing his place as one of the most sought-after young strikers in Europe. What has sent Celtic fans into a frenzy is not just Miovski's potential, but the reported interest from their club. Celtic, always on the lookout for top-tier talent to bolster their squad, has been linked to Miovski through various sources in the transfer market. The combination of his skills and his potential for growth makes him a tantalizing prospect for the Scottish Giants. The buzz surrounding his possible move to Celtic Park has grown so intense that even the most casual of fans are eager to see what will happen next. However, the competition for Miovski's signature is fierce. As one of the hottest names in the transfer window, he has attracted interest from clubs across Europe. Despite his relatively recent move to Girona, it's clear that his future could lie elsewhere if the right offer comes in. Reports have suggested that Celtic will need to act fast, with several other clubs circling. But with the lure of champions, league football, and the chance to compete for domestic titles in Scotland, could Miovski be tempted by a return to the Scottish Premiership? As the days tick by, fans will undoubtedly be glued to their screens, waiting for confirmation of whether Miovski will take the leap to Celtic or remain with Girona. But one thing's for sure, the transfer saga is far from over, and it's shaping up to be one of the most exciting stories of the summer window. Stay tuned as more details are likely to emerge in the coming weeks. Will Celtic land their man, or will another club swoop in? Only time will tell. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.